Hey there, everybody. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. It is Black Sabbath night. I should be wearing a Sabbath shirt instead. I got my Pat Travers shirt on, but we got Steve and Chris are representing. Ryan and I are kind of not, but that's all right. Today, we're kind of taking a little bit from the UK Connection playbook. We're doing favorite and least favorite albums tonight, and we're going to do a band that neither of my buddies on the UK Connection are really all that interested in doing. So I said, you know what? I think the Hudson Valley Squares would be interested in tackling Black Sabbath. So we've got a small crew tonight because it's summertime. We're getting close to summertime. Everybody's busy doing stuff, but we got Steve Keeler in the house. We got Ryan Scow and Chris Allo. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, everybody.
Ready to talk some Sabbath? I think we're always ready to talk Sabbath on the show, right?
All the fucking.
Fuck yeah.
So you know
Hell,
how
I
it
told you
goes
3 years ago, I'm ready to do a weekly Sabbath show. So.
I'll be right there with you. I'll talk about Sabbath every week.
Yeah.
I could do that too, quite frankly. So yeah, no problem.
That's cool. Mr. Gaffney, who we have once in a while there, he's Sabbath,
Big fan.
Yeah, Larry
Sabbath
Malcolm.
Central down there.
That's right.
Gaffney and McCloskey, I think, Darren.
Yep.
Yep. Cool.
Martin Popoff's a big fan too, so we got lots of
True.
stuff
Yeah.
here. So
John
you know
McAfee.
how it works, everybody. So we'll start off. Everybody will name their two favorite Black Sabbath albums. We'll go all the way around, and then we'll do our two least favorites, and then we'll do the wild card. So the wild card is basically an album that's not quite one of your top favorites. It's certainly not one of the bottom feeders. It's somewhere in the middle. But the great thing about the wild card is you can pick like a regular studio album, you can pick a live album, you can pick a compilation, something like that. The wild card is basically whatever you want to do for the wild card, right? So we'll have Steve kick us off. We'll go Steve, Ryan, Chris, myself, and we'll go round and round till we get to the wild card. So Steve, your two favorite Black Sabbath albums.
All right. So, boy, this could change daily, but I know what my number one, I can tell you exactly what it is. And I've known that for a long, long time. But the number two could rotate. But as of going into this, I thought of Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. And that could be my number two. But just for the power of the Paranoid album, I don't care how many times you heard Paranoid.
Did we all lose Steve?
I think so.
Where'd Steve go? Steve.
Different ways,
Hey, buddy.
Vinyl, whatever else. And but Paranoid, I mean, Electric Funeral, all the great songs in there, and plus the three songs that we've all heard a million times. But I still don't mind hearing War Pigs.
Never.
I still don't mind hearing Iron Man. So I'm gonna go with Iron Man and Paranoid, actually Paranoid for number two. And my number one album is Black Sabbath, Sabotage.
Wow. Okay.
Of
cool.
course, hole in the
Damn it.
the red. You can't get better.
No.
Am I freezing up or something?
Yeah, you're in and out, Steve.
Yeah.
Yeah, my internet's in and
Freezing
out.
up. Yeah.
You want me to redo parts you couldn't hear?
Well,
Would
so
you hear-
keep talking about Sabotage. I think we got the Paranoid thing.
All right, so you heard the Paranoid part. I wasn't in and out on that. For some reason, my internet was very flaky lately. Last week on the Rock Fantasy Files, it actually shut down and the show kept going without me. So very strange. But thanks, Spectrum. But my number one album I've known for a long time is Black Sabbath, Sabotage. From the beginning, the hole in the sky, the symptom of the universe. It doesn't get any better than that in my book. Megalomania, Thrill of It All, the Writ. I love the whole album. Am I going insane? I feel like that every day in 2020 to 2022. I could go insane at any time. So I think most of it's good. So I'm going to go with Black Sabbath, Sabotage for number one, Paranoid for number two. But boy, it could change at any time. And I'm going with Ozzy stuff for the top two tonight. So,
Steve, would you agree that those early Sabbath albums with Ozzy probably have some of the best deep cuts in all of heavy music history?
oh yeah, and it's just something special about those records. I've talked about those like that early Sabbath material with a lot of people, and you could play that at any kind of a metal gathering. like the death metal scene. You go back to someone's house after you put on Sabbath. It's a no-brainer. Any kind of music you can put Sabbath, any kind of a metal show, a party, you can always put on early Sabbath or, an Iron Maiden record. It's just, what more can you say?
Yeah, it's like sacrilege to not like Sabbath, right?
It's weird.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Fucking weird.
Yeah. All right, Ryan, your top two.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. For me, this was probably the hardest albums choices because I know this is just my opinion, but Sabbath have 19 studio albums, and some are some of my favorite albums of all time. I'm going to say there's not a single album in that 19 that I hate. I mean, some are obviously a lot better than others, granted, but there's none that I hate. So, and they all go through rotation in my listening. So picking the top two is fucking hard. Because now you're getting into my favorite albums ever. So I gave it a lot of thought. I had a lot of conversations with friends over this, all Sabbath fanatics. And you know what? My favorite, I'm going to go with it. This does rotate often, but it's got to be Master of Reality, the third album. Because as much as I love the first six are all brilliant, but this is just something so dark and heavy and slow about this. Obviously, Children of the Grave is just beyond fucking compare. But Lord of this World, After Forever, Into the Void, even Solitude, which is the song where people always would bag on Ozzy. It's like, oh, he's great with Sabbath, he's iconic. He's not a good vocalist, but I'm like, you know what? He sings his ass off on Solitude. He doesn't do a lot of that in his career. That style, it's very slow and kind of mournful, but it works. And obviously Paranoid's got Planet Caravan, which is awesome, but the Solitude always for me has been like that perfect, like really slow, mellow, kind of hippie-ish song. To me, it's a perfect album. I listen to it all the time. It's heavy as shit. Maybe the heaviest thing they ever did. So yeah, my number one gotta be Master of Reality. And number two, this was hard too. I kept going back and forth, but Steve mentioned it in passing. It's gotta be Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. The title track, you put a gun to my head. Title track might be the best song they ever wrote. Just that when that gets to slower and heavier riff comes in, it's unbelievable. But National Acrobat, Killing Yourself to Live, Sabracadabra, Looking for Today, Who Are You? Every song. It's amazing. So he asked me in 5 minutes, and these choices will probably change. But for now, I'm going to say Master of Reality, and especially that artwork is just so fucking cool, too. That's just iconic.
Yeah.
And the one on the back, too. I was thinking out the vinyls because I got them all on vinyl, too, but I figured CDs was good enough for the show. So, yep, Master of Reality, Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath. Definitely my favorite two at the moment. I didn't go with Dio this time, but I could easily have gone with, it goes back and forth because they got so many great fucking albums. But yep, for me, those are the top two.
That is true.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Chris.
All right. Yeah. I was saying before we went on air. Oh, that's cool, Steve. Yeah, this took me of all the videos we've done with Pete, when he asked this topic, I'm like, wow, this took like 2.5 seconds. This was pretty easy to pick from. My number two album, my number two Black Sabbath album, probably my second favorite record of all time, and without question, it is the number one record that changed my life. Kind of like how Star Wars changed my life in 1977. Getting this album in 83 or 84 completely changed my life. Black Sabbath, got me into heavy music, and heavy music changed my life dramatically. I mean, I always say all the good things in my life come from being into this kind of music. So without question, this is the record that did it for me, and it's everything that Steve said. Black Sabbath, Paranoid. This is my first. I have multiples on vinyl and tape, but I just grabbed the CDs. This is the British version from Castle with the live track. This is another British pressing with which was remastered. This is from that black box. This is like a digipack kind of. This is the triple disc from a couple years back, the deluxe edition. This is a bootleg of the Paranoid quadraphonic mix, and the most recent 4-disc super deluxe set. And I think I listened to this like 3 or 4 times today. Yeah, what more needs to be said? It's an amazing record. Yeah, exactly like Steve said, the 3 tracks we've all heard a 10 bazillion times. But they're still great. And man, that side 2 is just fucking crushing. And this is, by far my favorite from the original lineup. And yeah, my number 2 or my number 1 Sabbath record, which is my all-time, bar none, favorite album of all time. Yeah, is Mob Rules. Here's my CD signed by Ronnie. Here's a British remaster from the 90s. The Rules of Hell promo version. Rules of Hell regular version. These have like all the Deal albums. Then this is the double disc deluxe edition, and then this is the newest double disc deluxe edition. And I have multiples on vinyl and stuff. But
Wait a
yeah,
minute, Chris, you're not going to show us all the vinyl copies too?
no, I was
Okay.
not digging through. Yeah, my
That's a lot of
vinyl.
digging.
Yeah, completely disorganized. I mean, I showed it on one of Pete's episodes, an LP of Mob Rules signed by all 4 guys. But yeah, I was not digging through that for that, Steve. But yeah, I love Mob Rules. It's my I think it's Ronnie's shining moment. I like it better than Rising or Holy Diver. It's incredibly heavy. As much as I love Heaven and Hell, it's a better album than Heaven and Hell, in my opinion. It's a heavier album than Heaven and Hell, and yeah, I could just listen to it all the time. And yeah, that's it. That's my number 1 favorite Sabbath record.
I think we said it on another show recently, but yeah, to me, "Sign of the Southern Cross" is the single best song you ever sang.
It's my favorite song of
You
all
get
time.
fucking hair.
Yeah,
It's unbelievable. Every time I hear it, you gotta you stop what you're doing, like I gotta put this on and just soak it up. It's just that fucking good.
Ryan, we got some weird stuff going on with your audio tonight.
yeah, your audio is very crackly.
It's not just my problem. Poor Ralph Tambora. Ralph, see, it wasn't that bad.
Is that any better? Or?
That does sound a little better, yeah.
You sound like
Okay.
you're on the Faith No More album, Underwater Love.
I don't have that record.
He's underwater. You don't have Faith No More. Wow.
Yeah,
I do. So, all right. Some people.
By the
don't
way,
know.
for those who want to see Chris's different vinyl versions of some of these albums, make sure you go back and check out the 3-part history of Black Sabbath that we
History
did.
of Black-
How many years ago was that? 3?
I don't even know. That was the first video I ever did with you on this channel. That had to be what, like 4 years ago, maybe?
I don't even remember. It was a long time
Earlier?
ago. Yeah.
Long time ago. But yeah, that was the 3-part. I show off some vinyl and some tour programs and stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that was in part 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. That was done right in this room, sitting over there.
Yes.
Way back when.
But yeah, I was going to say, God,
Because we weren't even doing Zoom stuff back then, right?
no, that was before Zoom.
It was before
Yeah.
pandemic. Yeah, that was before pandemic.
That
Yeah, I
was
was
when you
gonna say, I
just
mean-
brought your laptop around, Pete, and we
Yeah.
sat in front of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going back to the old days.
Yeah, the old days, right?
Back in the wonderful old days.
I still remember, this was classic. I remember Ryan came here and we did like some Uriah Heep show. And I asked Ryan before, and I was like, oh, you want a beer or something? And I had like Guinness or something like that, some kind of stout. And we sat in here and Ryan just was gulping that beer down throughout the whole episode.
It was
And like,
damn
people
good.
were watching, they were like, boy,
Boy,
he likes to drink fast, doesn't he?
he's drinking beer. Yeah. Everybody was all fucking torn up because I was drinking a beer, like, a beer that I was offered, by the way.
Nice.
All right, my 2
There was
favorites.
a lot of comments. People were like, really.
Along with Chris, this was pretty easy for me. I mean, generally my top 4 favorite albums is pretty constant. Number 1 is always number 1. Sometimes 2 and 3 kind of move around a little bit, but I'm going to go with my number 2, Master of Reality. For everything that Ryan said before, it's just a crushing album. This is like, it's doom, but this is like kind of the prototype for all the stoner stuff that we've been hearing for the last like 20 years or so. I mean, man, Sweet Leaf After Forever is like one of the unsung Sabbath songs. Children of the Grave is great. Into the Void. I mean, Solitude, Lord of this World, just the whole thing just crushes. And I like the production of it. I think it is exactly what it needs to be. So that's my number 2. And my number 1, some people are not big on this album because it's kind of like the beginning of their experimental period, but it's been my favorite set, just like Chris. Paranoid changed my life completely. But years later, I began to appreciate other Sabbath albums even more. And this one has been my favorite Sabbath album probably for 35 years at least, Volume 4.
Wow.
I just love the moodiness of this album. I like that they take chances and they're doing some different stuff. I mean, Wheels of Confusion rules. Tomorrow's Dream is amazing. I could leave Changes, but Supernaut. Love
I was
Supernaut.
about to say, you skip Changes or do you play that one?
Oh, yeah.
Snowblind is my favorite Black Sabbath song of all time. And then you got everything else on that side is great. Cornucopia, Laguna Sunrise, St. Vitus Dance, Under the Sun is like one of the heaviest things they've ever done. So yeah, I just love this album to death. Those are my top 2 right there. Back to Steve, the bottom 2.
Boy, well, I only did my homework for bottom 1, so I'm gonna have to pull a wild card for bottom 2 also.
No,
So,
wild card is something else, Steve.
well, it's gonna be a double wild card. I'm gonna make the
four
Black
rounds.
Sabbath, the rules of hell or whatever it is. And I did get this pillow at the end tour. I was waving around.
Yeah, that's very cool.
You don't
is
have
awesome.
that,
I
Chris?
guess I missed it, Steve. I think I mean, I seen them 3-4 times on the end. Had I seen that, I totally would have bought that thing.
You would have slept with it tonight.
Oh, rub it under my face. Yeah. Yeah, I don't
Why
remember that.
wouldn't you?
Well, I know what my absolute worst album by Black Sabbath is, and it's far, far above everything and below. I probably haven't listened to this album in years. I was almost thinking of listening to it today, but I didn't find the time. It is Forbidden, even though it has Cozy Pal on drums.
Gee, I wonder
And-
why Pete has that handy.
He's got it right out, boy. It must be his. I think you made a mistake. That's your favorite Black Sabbath album, Pete Barton. No. And there's nothing memorable about. I remember about that album being good. I still have album flats hanging in my store in one of the cases from that album, actually. But that's a disaster. Follow up to Cross Purposes, which I thought was a decent record, and they kind of got some footing in the States with the Cross Purposes tour. They didn't tour in the States much with Tony Martin, and that was one of the ones I saw in New York City was Cross Purposes, Black Sabbath with Motorhead and Morbid Angel.
Yeah.
And they got a lot of airplay on like rock radio with that album, but then Forbidden came out, and I mean, it had Ice-T, and they had some little bit of rap in it, and it just didn't seem like Sabbath to me. And that was the end of the Tony Martin era for pretty much. So, boy, I looked over because I didn't do my homework. I looked over the discography, and I don't know which one is next for being bad.
You gotta pick, Steve. You gotta pick
Gotta
something.
pick one. And, I thought of Cross Purposes, but I'm going to lean on Seventh Star. I mean, I like the record, but if I pull it one of the weakest records, I'd say it is. It's not my favorite thing. It's not even supposed to be a Black Sabbath record, as Tony Iommi said, and it was supposed to be a solo record. I mean, I'm probably going to catch hell for saying this is the worst one, but I don't know. I like all the Tony Martin era records. I mean, I maybe Cross Purposes, but I don't know. Eternal Idol I love, so from that Tony Martin era. So I'm going to go with that for my second least favorite, even though I probably will listen to it tomorrow and say, man, why did I say that was the second least one? But what else?
Well,
do I
remember,
go at?
it's least favorite, so you could still like it, but it just,
For Forbidden, I'm not playing tomorrow. So
yeah, I don't blame you.
maybe I will actually. I got to drive to Jersey. Maybe I'll put it on just to say,
Give it a spin.
maybe I'll like some of it. I don't know. Maybe I didn't give it a chance back then.
There are a couple good songs on Forbidden.
Yeah,
And
it's got some good tracks.
Am I
on it.
doing the wild card now?
Not yet. We'll come back around to you.
Okay.
So, all right, Ryan, your 2 least favorite.
All right, so this was tougher because, like I said, I don't think they have any really, really bad albums. But obviously, you had to pick 2. So I'm going to pick the one that disappointed me the most. And I don't think it's a bad album. I still throw it on, and I think it's got some really good songs on it. But when you take the sum total of everything involved, for me, it's got to be 13.
Wow.
Because first off, the way they fucking fuck Bill Ward to me is inexcusable. I know Rick Rubin. I mean, he might look like a homeless Rasputin at this point, but I don't like how he produced the album. It's like a Foo Fighters album. It's very bright, very clear, very compressed. There's no murk, and Sabbath needs fucking murk. Like people always bag on like Born Again. I like how that sounds. I like it sounds evil and dirty. Actually, I think Forbidden kind of has like a bit of a evil sound too. You know, it's just like lo-fi and dirty. That's just me. But this album is very clear. It's very bright. It's very polished. It's very radio friendly, just in the production. Although the music is not really that way. But I don't like the Brad Wilkes drumming, the guy from Rage Against the Machine. I think he just phoned it in. I don't give a fuck about that band. But I'll be honest, it's the first album I own with Ozzy since I was going through my collection since Bark at the Moon. I don't own any Ozzy albums after Bark at the Moon. I just never really was into his solo career past that. So this is the first album I have since then, and I think he sounds pretty good. You know, I don't know how much of it's studio trickery, but he doesn't sound bad. And Geezer and Iommi are, you know, they sound good. So it's not a bad album, but it's just, I don't know. I think it could have been more. I feel like they were trying to we got to sound like old Black Sabbath. You know, they were trying to, square peg in a round hole a little bit, but whatever. And the second one, this was tougher trying to pick down a second album. I almost picked Forbidden, but there's some tracks on that I like.
How could you not?
No, it's the worst Tony Martin album. I do think that it's definitely not high. I mean, it was almost on the list, but I'm certainly not a huge fan of it. But I throw it on every now and then, and so I had to go with. I don't know if this is going to be controversial or not. I went with 7 Star.
It's the same I picked.
You know what? I don't think it's a bad album. Obviously, it was supposed to be a soul album. Was never supposed to be Sabbath. Everybody knows that. But it represents a kind of like very melodic mid 80s metal that I'm just really not into. Glenn Hughes sounds fucking awesome. He's probably the highlight of the whole album. Like he sings his fucking ass off. Sounds great. But I mean, they got what's Eric Singer on drums from Kiss or would be in Kiss. I don't know. He just kind of whatever. He's just there. Dave spits. The rhythm section on this album is just kind of there. It doesn't really give any like oomph. And old Sabbath, the rhythm section was a big part of it. Fucking Geisler, Bill Ward back in the day. That was a big part of the sound. So an album like this is just kind of like keeping time. I don't know. I mean, some of the songs are good. In for the Kill is probably good, but No Stranger to Love. Like I hate that sappy ballad 80s bullshit. So that's just not for me at all. But it's got some good songs, but for this style of 80s music, this is probably one of the better albums I own, but it's just not really like my style. So I'm glad after this they went to Eternal Idol, which is a much better album in my opinion. Martin sounds great on that. It's more like what I want from Sabbath, even though it doesn't really sound like classic Sabbath, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm going with 7 Star. And it's not a bad album. Like Pete said, it's not a bad album at all. I'll throw it on and I'll like it. But if I had to pick from every other Sabbath album, this has got to be the second worst one. And then yeah, Steve, Forbidden would probably be number 3.
Probably. I'm getting that, boy.
But we didn't pick top 3. We only did 2. So it's still 7 Star.
Oh, no honorable mentions.
That's right. That's right.
No honorable.
Scour usually talks about a Hungarian band that had one demo.
That's Tormentor. I got him right here.
No, that's a good band.
Tormentor,
I'm talking about the one no one I heard of that played in the basement. That's going to be your perfect album side later.
Don't cross the stream, Steve. We're not talking about that.
Don't cross the stream. Don't cross the street in the middle.
Don't spoil the fun, Steve. All right, Chris, your bottom 2.
Yeah, this was easy for me. Took like 2 seconds for this. Yeah, I really don't like this record, even though I do have 5 copies, vinyl tape, and then 3 CDs.
Oh no!
Yeah, that Never Say Die. I did listen to it again yesterday, and yeah, I don't like it. I hate the songs. I hate the production. But the fucking band hates it too. The 4 guys in that band do not like this album. And that's probably why no song from this record was ever played after 1978. Unless you count the one time Ozzy did Never Say Die on the Speak of the Devil record, which we're not fucking counting. But yeah, I always say, all right, yeah, I consider myself a fairly big Sabbath fan. But if you put a gun to my head and be like, okay, hum Air Dance or Shockwave.
I like
love
it.
them both. I love both of those songs.
Pull the
I like
trigger.
Air Dance.
I don't know. I mean, I listened to it yesterday, and I'm like,
I have a
okay.
question.
I'm like, well, what? Where is the saxophone? And like, what the fuck is this? This is like,
they went a little
it's like
Steely Dan
freeform
on that.
jazz on one fucking
Little
track.
jazzy,
I'm like,
a little spacey.
I'm like, this is terrible. But listen, the band was a complete mess. Ozzy
Yeah.
had just quit, had just come back. Wouldn't they replaced Ozzy with Dave Walker? They were all fucked up in Canada, miserable, doing this fucking record, and it shows. You know, they were a mess. And yeah, I really like the album cover though, and I think it's so ironic that since Ozzy reunited, they have, of all the Sabbath albums, they have gone fucking nuts on merchandising on just the Never Say Die album.
Exactly.
Which is so funny because they never do any fucking songs from this record. But yeah, I don't like it. But
we've talked about that at shows, Chris. Like we walked up to see like the first merch booth at 13 tour or something. And Never Say Die.
Shirts, buttons,
everything's
Well, but here's the story,
Die.
guys. Other than the first album and Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, most of Sabbath's album covers in the 70s suck.
which we talked about. Yeah,
This is a cool album cover. I mean,
I like Paranoid's album cover way better than that. I
That
like
was
that
the
guy
music
like
video.
coming out.
and you know, Paranoid, of course, would make more sense if that album was called War Pigs. That's why it's a guy in fucking pink with a sword.
Mm.
But you know, that's a record company thing. But yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right, Pete. Sabbath album covers, left
Sabbath Bloody Sabbath would make a cool shirt.
I think there should be merchandise in that, but then I think, well, maybe they're like, the 666 thing
it's
is
kind
going
of
to
evil looking. Yeah.
turn.
But
turn
the
people
Black
off.
fucking Sabbath, and it's a Prince of fucking Darkness.
Yeah, I mean,
I swore
Yeah.
I swore finally on a channel.
I heard that. Yeah.
Len's not even
There
here.
you go. I have a full bootleg of Sabbath Bloody Sabbath. It's not an official shirt, but it's a really good quality long sleeve bootleg. I ain't giving up that for fucking anything.
I mean, and they have done. You know, I feel
sell
like
two,
Sabbath have
sell
done
two official
merch
Sabbath.
on everything, but it's just so weird. There's so much of Never Say Die.
It doesn't make
it's-
any sense.
when it's an album they never touch, and
It
they
doesn't make no sense.
they hate it. They hate that record.
But they like to sell T-shirts on the album cover.
Yeah, weird.
And I sell two. I have
Excuse me,
two
very strange.
Sabbath Bloody Sabbath shirts at Rock Fantasy for sale, official.
There you go. Go to Hudson Valley's #1 record store.
Thank
All
you.
right. Number 2, I only have ever bought this album once. I did see the tour 3 times, and I will never forget. I hope Tony Martin's not listening. But the only time I ever heckled Black Sabbath, all 3 times I saw Sabbath on the Forbidden Tour, Tony Martin would come out, and as a stage rap, and I don't know why the fuck in the world he would say it, he'd be like, yeah, our new record, we recorded it in only 7 days. And I did. I know at least once or twice I yelled, yeah, it shows. I mean, it's fucking garbage, this record. Of course, I'm talking about Forbidden. I keep I got a Tony Iommi guitar pick from the Forbidden Tour. The only other time I bought it, I do have the Forbidden Rough Mix, which is a bootleg from Cozy Powell's. We talked about this on one of the other things, Cozy Powell's collection. But yeah, God, again, just like on Never Say Die, the band was in complete fucking disarray at this time. Tony Iommi didn't know where he was going. They brought in Ice-T. Apparently, Ice-T sang on the entire record because Ernie C. from Body Count produced the album, and Tony Martin himself said, yeah, Ice-T sang the whole record. He goes, I didn't know if I was going to be on the record at all or if they were going to use Ice-T. As soon as this tour ended, Tony Martin was fired, and Tony Iommi started looking for new singers. And Steve Grimmett from Grim Reaper told me himself,
yes,
he got the gig. And then Steve Grimmett heard on the radio that they were reuniting with Ozzy. So, in both these cases, there are things that I like, bits and pieces of songs that I like, but both cases, the band was in a complete fucking mess. Cozy Powell quickly left after the tour started because he's like, fuck this, I'm out of here. So yeah, in both cases, you can't, I can't blame Sabbath for putting out subpar records, in my opinion, because they were in a mess, and to me it shows.
I have a question for Chris Allo. Now on the Forbidden tour, I don't think I saw that. Who did they tour with?
It was very interesting because on Cross Purposes, it was Black Sabbath, Motorhead, and Morbid Angel, and that was in March of '94.
Yeah,
they came back in June of '95, so 12 months later. But now it was Black Sabbath, Motorhead, and Tiamat from Sweden.
Wow.
So it was almost the same lineup. You swapped out one, extreme band for another band. But yeah, and they played like almost the same venues. So yeah, I don't know if you saw it, Steve. I saw that.
I didn't go in '95. I was dealing with some health issues, and I didn't do much that summer. I remember. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, they did. I saw that. The summer tour was Roseland, Toad's Place, and the Sting in New Britain, Connecticut. And they did change the set list from Cross Purposes to Forbidden. And both tours were good. Tony Martin was really good. But it is strange that, they were kind of struggling with Tony Martin, just, with people having interest in the band, and they kept trying.
Who drummed on that tour? Since you said Cozy walked off.
The tour started with Cozy Powell.
Yeah.
But I don't know, because Bobby Rondinelli is on Cross Purposes, and I don't remember when, but I think it was for the European tour. Apparently Cozy Powell called up Bobby Rondinelli and was like, "Hey, you want my old gig back?" Because
Bobby will always take that gig, right?
Fuck yeah. And it is true. Looking back, like, okay, so the Cross Purposes thing fell apart. So then somebody was like, "Well, let's do the Headless Cross tier reunion again." But that didn't do so great to begin with. So
not in the States.
Not in the States, and it didn't do great in Europe either. On Headless Cross they did, but on the tier tour in Europe, which did not tour America, they had to cancel dates for low ticket sales in 1990. So in 1995, you're like, oh, okay, well, Geezer leaves. Let's get rid of Bobby Rondinelli. Let's go back to the tier thing. I don't know. You could do a whole video.
Yeah, interesting.
And I
Black Sabbath.
Bad mistakes that Black Sabbath made.
Yeah. That wasn't exactly a good year for them, like metal in general, of the band,
That's another great point. I mean, Christ, you had Black Sabbath and Motorhead, and they were doing clubs together, and they were doing Toad's Place in New Haven.
Well, Maiden
that just shows you how bad metal was.
And it was tough going for a while.
Yeah.
But then Ozzy at that time was so much larger, and he was probably still doing arenas. That was that was '94 was his No More Tours tour. Remember?
No, that was '92.
'92. I thought it was '94. Okay.
No.
You've got such a great memory, Chris.
I try.
Way better than mine. But I remember going to Ozzy's farewell tour, and he was doing big arenas still. Whatever he was doing that.
But '92 was when Sabbath was doing Dehumanizer, so they were doing better. That was probably the best they ever did in the '90s, outside of later '90s when they reunited with Ozzy.
And that was still at smaller places like the Beacon.
Yeah. So like you're 25 to 5,000 seater.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah.
So
all right, my bottom two. Basically, for me, you could take like the 3 or 4 songs from each one of these albums, put them on one album, and you got a halfway decent record. Never Say Die and Forbidden, just like Chris.
Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, I it's funny because we talk to people all the time who are like, we talk about how
people
much
love that record.
Never Say Die.
I love it,
and they think it's the best thing they ever did. And
that's not true.
Wait a minute.
It's got some good songs, but
best thing they ever did. Who said that?
A lot of people do.
There's
Steve.
people that love that record.
I mean, I love it. I listen to that a ton, and so does John McAtee from Incantation. We actually did an episode on Gaffey's channel in defense of that album. It was called.
Yeah,
so. I like it, but it's not fucking Master of Reality at all.
Junior's Eyes.
Junior's Eyes, I think it's a great song. I think
that's the only song I like on that record.
You like Air Dance?
I like the title track.
I like Air Dance. I know, Chris. I like the title track. I think it's a great song.
A Hard Road would be good, but it's a little too happy.
I was just gonna say that, Pete. Too damn happy.
That is a happy fucking song.
Yeah, the rest of it just doesn't do a lot for me. But and this too. I don't like the production. There's a couple songs on here that are pretty good. It's but it's just flat. So that was pretty easy. Now the wild card, Steve. What do you got?
Wild card. I'm picking wild card because it's an album that has a singer that only did one album, and I find it to be one of their strongest records. But it's hard for me. It's hard to gather all this together at times. But I've got the T-shirt on, Born Again. Last summer I had a party out back, a 4th of July thing, and I just put on Born Again and had it blasting out back. And
Great album.
Some people were like, what are you playing? It's like, is that Deep Purple? Is that Black Sabbath? And like, yeah, it's Black Sabbath, Deep Purple. Yep. And I got to see that tour at the Meadowlands Arena, whatever. It's still standing now, but I don't think they've done a show in it in years. But saw that with Quiet Riot opening up. I think Pardo was there. I don't know. Chris, were you at that show?
No, I wish.
Too young.
That was October, I want to say 30th, 1983.
Yeah.
Yes,
I was actually Halloween.
I remember being at the stock car races here in Middletown because the races were going on and I was drinking. I was wrecked before I even went to that show.
Yeah.
My wife picked me up at the racetrack and off we went to the Meadowlands.
Nice.
And I remember being a fan of Quiet Riot before that show. And after that show, I no longer like Quiet Riot.
Interesting.
And it was a very tough crowd. Black Sabbath back in those days, you did not want to really open up because as soon as you stopped playing your loud guitars in between a song, the whole crowd would start yelling, Sabbath, Sabbath. And it was a unique experience seeing Gillan. I loved Gillan, and I would love to hear another album with Gillan with Black Sabbath. I know he's one of Pete's favorite vocalists as mine, and just a great record. Thrashed, Zero the Hero, Disturbing the Priest. I'd say it's like that's one of the most evil. It's the most evil Sabbath record of those.
It's definitely.
I mean, you can go with the first Sabbath album with the song Black Sabbath, but I think it's just so evil. Of course, with the Red Baby, some people think that's the worst album cover, Pete.
Fuck them. That's great cover.
Yeah, I love that, and I love Pete's story with the T-shirt.
Oh, look at my mother's face, man! When I came home with that shirt, you were not wearing that to school, Mike.
Now, the one that you got, Pete, was that the white 3/4 inch, 3/4 where they were writing the hand writing the dates on the back, which I think was so cool.
Yep.
That's on the back of this one. This is a bootleg I got off of.
Very cool.
I think
that's
the same, guys.
Yeah, that's the same.
That's
yeah,
cool.
It's the book with the red hand
like
with the old school pen writing the dates in, which I think is so cool.
Just stabbing the priest.
Yep, good choice.
That's great song.
Yeah, great pick.
Ryan, your wild card.
I'm gonna go with a live album, but I'm gonna go with a live album that I don't know if most people would go to at first, and that is the Reunion album, which they recorded in '97. So it had the 4 original guys. The set list is nothing like unexpected, but I mean, like you guys said, they were struggling through the '90s. Things were tough, so they got that great reunion. They got back together. They banged out these, obviously their stock went up again. They started playing way more people. I think that's really when they kind of started cresting, and now, it became the band that everybody knew, and they were able to sell arenas again. And the set list is just a, who's who of their first couple albums, and it's great. It sounds good. All 4 of the guys sound good. It has a good live sound to it, not too polished, not too raw. It has 2 studio tracks tacked on the very end, which I don't really give a fuck about. I don't think they're that great. But as a live album, it's probably the Sabbath live album I throw on the most. Is it their best live album? I don't say it's their best, but I don't know. It's like comfort food. It's the 4 guys. They're back together. They sound great, playing all the songs everybody loves. There's no weak tracks on it. You can go through the set list: War Pigs, Behind the Wall of Sleep, Electric Funeral, Into the Void. Even throw Dirty Woman in there. Children of the Grave. There's no weak. You can throw the whole thing on. The whole thing's great all the way through. I'd say it's probably the one I listen to the most often from them. It's just a good. You could throw it on in the car. It's just a fucking guy. I couldn't dig my copy of it. It was somewhere. It's probably in a car actually, so I don't have it with me. But yeah, I'm
Yeah.
looking for Reunion, and I think that's and the cover art was cool too. I remember I'm only 40, so that's straight. That came out when I was still a teenager, just
Yeah.
getting into them. So it ended up being the first live album I got from them, and yeah, it's always stuck with me. I thought it's always been a really good album, captured them where they were then. I wish they could have recorded 13 maybe that many years earlier and actually got their shit together with Bill, but at least they have this live album with Bill on drums. So
I almost wore the t-shirt tonight. I was going through my shirts last year and going through some old ones, and I found 2 shirts from the reunion tour, and I think they're both parking lot shirts. And I mean, of course, it was big for them to go back from playing like Toad's place, like Chris said, or the Beacon, to going back and headlining arenas. And of course, they pulled Pantera, and Pantera was like the hottest thing back in that time period too, to open up for them. And I think it was Pantera and Deftones when I saw it at the Meadowlands.
Yep, that was the night.
I don't even remember seeing the Deftones. I didn't even like the Deftones in that time period, but I grew to like them later on. But having them in Pantera, that was the hot ticket that year.
Yeah, I saw that show at Nassau Coliseum.
Yeah,
and I didn't go in for Deftones. I was out drinking at the bar.
Yeah, I was like, I don't even know what that band's like, but now I like them. But I probably didn't watch them then either. And how many times did Chris see that tour? Did he follow them around the country?
I saw them at Nassau in the Meadowlands in '99, and then I saw them.
I saw the Meadowlands show in '99.
Yeah,
You were there?
I did, I think, 3 Ozfests.
Yeah, I
And
saw
then I flew to the farewell last ever Black Sabbath shows in Birmingham, England, in August of '99, which got canceled, but I still went. And then I went back for the actual shows in December of '99, which of course then Sabbath reunited in summer of 2001, I believe, or 2000. They gave it a good 6 months before Sharon was like, yeah, let's make some money again.
And then they did the final show, because I've got a t-shirt from the final show in England that Keith Celentano flew over to. I've got that's still here in my closet. I wore quite a bit.
15 years later.
Yep.
All right, Chris, your wild card.
Okay, my wild card. This was a record that I remember picking up as soon as it was released. I did not really like Seventh Star in 1986. I was definitely let down, but man, I absolutely loved from the get-go Eternal Idol. I just love the songwriting. I love the production. Tracks like Ancient Warrior, man, Eternal Idol, the title track is one of the heaviest fucking things they ever did. It's like, I would say maybe like the second spookiest Sabbath track outside of Black Sabbath. I just think it's a great record. And this is the opposite of Forbidden and Never Say Die. The band was a complete mess, but actually they weren't even a fucking band because it was just Tony Iommi with the revolving door of people. But yet it always blows my mind that he was able to come out with an amazing record, which completely was under the radar because it was their last record for Warner Brothers. And in fall of 1987, you couldn't be any deader than Black Sabbath's career. Thrash ruled the fucking world, and you still had the old school bands like, Maiden and Priest that were doing well. But man, fucking Black Sabbath was deader than dead. And just this album's completely overlooked. And it's my favorite non-Dio, non-Ozzy record. As much as I love Born Again, this one is my number one. If it's not one of with those two guys.
Cool.
Good choice.
Yeah, no US tour. They tried to tour Europe, and they made like 2 weeks of it. They did one show in the UK where they would normally do like 8 or 10, and they canceled the one UK show. I mean, they were a fucking mess. Nobody could keep track of who was in Sabbath at the time. Mess. But they cranked out somehow one really good record.
Cool. All right. The wild card for me was a little difficult. There were a couple that like my first instinct was to pick Born Again, but Born Again's like a top like 5 or 6 album for me. So I was like, all right, that's sitting a little too high. And then I thought about a couple of Tony Martin albums, and I was like, I don't know. And then I was going to pick maybe a live album. I was like, I don't know. And then I was thinking about maybe Technical Ecstasy. And I was like, I don't know about that either. I almost picked 13, but then I was like, nah, you know what? Which album I think for me sits right about in the middle of the catalog, and I think it's pretty underrated. And I've grown to like it even more over time. And I really liked it when it first came out, even though it wasn't well received. And maybe it's not quite a Black Sabbath album, but that is Seventh Star. I like this album a lot. I mean, it's heavy in spots. It's kind of bluesy. It's melodic. I think Glenn Hughes, it's one of his best vocal performances ever. And considering like how much of a mess he was at the time, pretty remarkable that they were able to get this kind of performance out of him. Great riffs on here. I think, you know what? You take No Stranger to Love off this album and put another like good, fast rocking track, and all of a sudden, this is a great album.
Yeah, 100%. I have grown to love that record, but I still cannot stand No Stranger to Love. Like, what the fuck were you thinking? And what the fuck were you thinking doing a video and a single of that?
Yeah.
Like,
come on. The video is absolutely ridiculous.
Oh, the video is so bad.
Yeah.
It's fucking Tony Iommi stomping around like Frankenstein, and the girl pushes him, and there's like a dog barking, and
yeah,
it's like, what are you thinking?
It makes fuck all sense, but
I remember right around when that album came out, I was listening to it in the store at Rock Fantasy, and I liked that album. Maybe I threw it under the bus picking as one of the worst, but it was the day the Challenger blew up, the space shuttle.
Interesting.
It was right around when that album came out. And I don't know if it was the day of it or right around that time. That's right. My memory of listening to that album at work.
Yeah, I like it though. In for the Kill is great. Turn to Stone, title track, Danger Zone is awesome. Heart Like a Wheel, Angry Heart. I don't know. I like it. I like it.
All right, maybe I'll retract that.
Cover is just
but I was going to say that when you held it up before, Pete. Sweet Jesus, what a fucking terrible album cover.
And like you said, a band that was not known for like exemplary art, like fucking Technical Ecstasy, but somehow this is even worse than like two robots pissing on each other off an escalator.
You know, like I always say, like, okay, you know, look at an album cover, that's going to be on all the T-shirts when you tour, like Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, Born Again. Those are all great. Even Never Say Die. Those are all great for T-shirts. How did Tony Iommi look at this and be like, "Oh yeah, this kids are gonna love this on T-shirts"?
This will do. Yeah, just me.
Should have made that the album cover.
They should have. Now I have I have the Canadian cassette of that, but when they did it for some reason, I think I showed it on the video with yours. They painted it black on black, so it's like the Spinal Tap album. You can't see a fucking thing.
Big black blob.
That's it. It's just black.
You have to ask yourself, what could be more black?
Well, there you have it, everybody. Our favorite, least favorite, and wild card Black Sabbath albums. So you know the drill down in the comments below. Let's hear your two favorites, your two least favorites, and the one you're picking as your wild card album. So I want to thank everybody for taking part in this little episode here. And we'll see everybody. Well, let's see. Before we talk about that, this is on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube. All together, all the damn time. I'm gonna lift the cat out of the hat. Lift the cat out of the bag now. Although Steve kind of did earlier. Join the four of us, Hudson Valley Squares, on the very last episode of Perfect Album Sides on the 31st. So that's a week from tomorrow. So you'll see us all then again. And we may or may not do a show next Monday, which is Memorial Day here in the States. So I may have some alternate programming because people are going to be busy doing stuff. We may do something small. We may not. We'll see, because I know a lot of people have things going on, and got Maryland Death Fest is happening that weekend and whatnot.
Yeah, I won't be around either.
Yeah, so we may not have any programming next, or no Hudson Valley Squares next Monday, but you'll see the four of us on Tuesday morning, bright and early. So thanks for watching, everybody. For Steve Keeler, Ryan Scow, Chris Allowine, Pete Pardo. Have a good night, everybody. Take care.